All right, guys. So now we're going to be doing 51 to 60. So for this one, it's a little bit difficult. All right, but my suggestion with anything that's difficult is to turn this writing into numbers. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to read it through one time, and then we're going to pull out the information that we need. Okay, so assume that total fixed costs are $46, that the average product of labor is 5 units when 10 units of output are produced, and that the wage rate is $12. If labor is the only variable input, what is the average total cost of producing 10 units of output? So, like I said, we're going to read through it one time, and we've already forgotten everything about this question. So, what we're going to do now is go through and pull out specific stuff that they tell us. So, they told us total fixed cost is $46. Then they told us the average product of labor is 5. Then they told us 10 units of output are produced. So Q equals 10. Wage is 12. Labor is the only variable input. So only labor is your variable cost. And then they are looking for the ATC. So we don't know the ATC. Okay. So let's figure it out. What do we need to know for ATC? Well, there's two ways to find ATC. There's total cost divided by quantity, or there's average fixed cost plus average variable cost. How do we find average variable cost? You will be doing, how do you find average fixed cost? You will be doing total fixed cost divided by quantity. So that would be 46 divided by 10. So your average fixed cost would be 46 divided by 10. So that is 4.6. We now need the total variable cost. So we can find the average variable cost, and then we'll get to the average total cost. To find the average variable cost, you will need the total variable cost divided by quantity. So what is your total variable cost? Well, the only thing for our variable cost is labor, and we pay them $12. But how many people do we hire? Your first instinct is to say we hire 5 people. But let's read the question again. It's the average product of labor is 5. That means your average labor is doing 5 units of output. This does not tell you how many people you hire. This is telling you that your average of your labor is 5. So, what is the average product of labor? So, average product of labor is going to be your total product divided by your labor. And since they told us your average product is 5, and we know your total product is 10, and I'm getting 10 because that's my quantity, right? Quantity is your total product. That's how much total stuff you're making. So we're going to put in an information. We have 5 equals 10 divided by x. How do I solve this? Well, I have an x in the denominator, so I'm going to multiply by x on both sides. 5x equals 10. From here, you will be dividing by 5 on both sides. So x equals 2. What does this x equals 2? Well, that's how many people you hire. So L equals 2. And if you hire 2 people and you pay them $12, your total variable cost is $24. So let's find the average variable cost. The average variable cost is total variable cost, which we just found as 24. You do 10 units of output. So that's 2.4. If you don't believe me, put it in your calculator. 24 divided by 10. Now, to find the ATC, we'll be doing the average fixed plus the average variable, and that would be 4.6 plus 2.4, and that equals 7. So 51 would be 7. That was a lot of work. right? But we had to break it bit by bit, piece by piece. But we eventually got there. All right. If you're still confused on that, just start the video over. All right, and then try it again. All right. So number 52. Which of the following best explains why it is difficult to maintain a lasting collusive agreement? So remember, collusive is dealing with the oligopolies, and what they're doing is they're calling each other on the phone and they're saying, "Hey, let's increase our price and decrease our quantity to maximize price profits." Right. So, why is this not a lasting agreement? Well, there's a couple reasons, but the main one is that because everybody is increasing their price and decreasing quantity, like the oligopoly is doing this, right? What if you were to increase your quantity? What if you were to try to sell more quantity? What do you think would happen? Well, you would increase your profits, right? And because you increase the quantity, right, then other firms, they look at that and they see you're making more profits. And so what do? They try to lower their price, increase the quantity, and then we then break the collusive agreement. So because you realize that you can make more profits by having more quantity, you have now broken the collusive agreement. So that's why it's difficult to maintain, is because actually you can make more profits if you were to not do the collusion. So 52 is E. 53. If labor is the only variable input and it costs $15 per hour, and if the marginal product of labor is 3 units per hour, the marginal cost of 1 unit of labor is blank. So what we need to do here is we need to take a look at your marginal revenue product, I'm sorry, you need to take a look at your marginal product of labor, which is 3, and then you need to take a look at your marginal factor cost, which is 15, okay, and then your marginal cost is of 1 unit is what? So we don't know the marginal cost. So this is a little interesting question here, because when we are looking at labor, right, we need to be looking at wherever your MRP is equal to your MFC, so marginal product, marginal revenue. We need to figure out where they're equal. So if your MFC is 15, right, and your marginal product is 3, so 3 times your marginal revenue, and that needs to be equal to your marginal factor cost, which is 15. So how much is your marginal revenue? If we divide by 3 on both sides, marginal revenue is equal to 5. Now, here's the deal. Whenever you're doing any market structure, step 1 says marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So if your marginal revenue is 5, and we're trying to figure out the marginal cost, guess what it is? 5. So this one we had to figure out the MRP. Once we found the MRP, we figured out the marginal revenue. And once we know the marginal revenue, we automatically know the marginal cost. You're probably wondering, well, why is it marginal revenue, marginal cost? We always go back to step 1. Step 1 is always MR equals MC. So if we know marginal revenue is 5, marginal cost has to be 5. Okay. 54. If a perfectly competitive firm wishes to maximize profits and is producing where price exceeds both marginal cost and average variable cost, then the firm is doing what? So here's the deal. It's a perfect competition firm. Very important that you understand it's the firm, because this is that graph. All right. So it honestly doesn't matter how you draw it, but let's just say it looks like this. Okay. All right. So price exceeds both marginal cost and average variable cost. So what they're trying to say is we are producing where our price is more than our ABC and our MC. Okay. Now I could also do it here, right? And we're gonna get the same result because what happens if you're here at this quantity? What was step one again? MR equals MC. And where does MRM equal MC? Well, that happens here at the blue. So you want to be at QPM, profit max. So right now, you are producing too little. Because your price way up here is more than your marginal cost or your ABC, you need to increase your quantity to where you are MR equals MC. So right now you're producing too little. You're producing where margin revenue is less than marginal cost. It's not true. It's actually more than. Using too much of the variable input. Well, actually, as we can see here, we're not using it enough. We're charging too high of a price. Are you charging too high of a price? No, because you are a price taker. You do not set your price. So it does. So the only thing you can do is just increase your quantity, and then you're not earning economic profits. Well, you could be, right? It just depends on what your ATC is. So the only one that makes sense here is A. 55. ABC Limited Inc. Sells its product in a perfectly competitive market for a price of $15 per unit, hires workers at a daily wage of 75. Labor is the only factor cost, and the firm is currently earning profits. If ABC hires one more worker and output increases by 5 units per day, the profits will blank. So here's the deal. We are dealing with labor. So as soon as they mention labor, you need to be thinking about your MRP and your MFC. So remember that the MRP is your marginal revenue times your marginal product. And since this is a perfectly competitive market, your MFC is equal to wage. So if your price is 15, your marginal revenue is 15, and the output increased by 5 units when you hired one more worker. So your marginal product is equal to 5. Remember, marginal product is how much your product changes when you hire somebody. And if your marginal product is, if your output is increasing by 5, this means because you hired somebody, they made 5 more units. So your marginal product is 5. So if we did 15 times 5, this equals 75. So did your profits, what happened to your profits? Well, you're still at your profit max. Like your profit max did not change because you were at this MRP equals MFC, and then you hired somebody else, and now you are still where your MRP is equal to MFC. So your profits did not change because you are still where you are equal. You were equal before, you are equal again, your profits do not change. 56. Condition for allocatable efficient is violated when. So as soon as you see allocative efficient, this is where price is equal to MC. And the only place that happens is perfect competition. Um, so why is this violated? Is it becomes firms are price makers? Well, if you are a price maker, you can charge whatever price you want. So therefore, it does not have to equal MC. So if you're a price maker, you could have a price more than MC. And if you're questioning this one, who is a price maker? Well, that would be a monopoly. And as you can see here, MR equals MC, quantity, price, and this is your marginal cost. As you can see here, because you're a price maker, price is more than your marginal cost. 56 is A. 57. In which of the following cases is the government's actions appropriate for reducing inefficiency? So let's see here. So we are reducing inefficiency. We are trying to reduce things like negative externality. You want to reduce negatives, right? That's what we're trying to do here. So should we tax the output of a chocolate factory that emits an aroma that residents enjoy? So this is actually a marginal external benefit. Why would you want to decrease your benefit? That doesn't make sense. Regulation that reduces the output of a monopoly. Well, this is not going to work either because we actually want to increase the output of a monopoly. Okay, so regulation that reduces the output, that doesn't make sense. We actually want to increase the output. A lump sum tax on a monopolist. A lump sum tax is basically the government says you owe $1,000. We don't care how much you produce. You just owe us $1,000. A lump sum tax does not change profit max. It does not change quantity. So because it does not change quantity, right, then we're not increasing our output. So therefore we are still inefficient. A per unit tax, which would mean a tax on each quantity, that would change the quantity to where we could be more efficient. A subsidy for the consumption of a good produced by a plant that emits a pollutant as a byproduct. Well, hold on. We're close there because it's a pollutant, which is a negative, but we don't want negatives, so we don't want a subsidy. Okay? What we need is a tax. And so if you have a congested bridge, congested meaning there's a lot of traffic. So if there's a lot of traffic on the bridge, that is a negative externality because people, there's a higher cost of driving on the bridge. So congested has more traffic, has more cost. How can we reduce the cost or how can we reduce the quantity? We put a tax, and a tax on roads is called a toll. A toll is a tax on roads. So tax, negative externalities. E. 57 is E. Number 58, the concept of derived demand is described by which of the following? So derived demand is basically why are you demanding more labor? Why are you demanding less labor? And the reason you're probably changing your demand for labor is because of what the labor is making. So, for example, if there was a decrease in the theater ticket prices, what happened to price? Well, price goes down. Price goes down, marginal revenue goes down. Marginal revenue goes down, MRP goes down, which is your demand for labor. Boom. A. We would decrease the demand for actresses and actors. What about B? If the salaries of basketball players increases, the quantity of basketball players demanded will decrease. So that is correct for the law of demand. However, that is not derived demand. So it's not B. An increase in the income of consumers will increase the demand for opera tickets. That is true for demand, but again, it's not derived demand. Derived demand is the whole where does it start? It starts in the product market. And because you're like the iPhone example, remember if the price of iPhones goes up, your marginal revenue goes up on the iPhones because your marginal revenue goes up. So that is derived demand, is because of the product market. Now it's not D because an increase in the demand for movie tickets decreases the demand for video rentals, right? Because those, again, it's not the labor, so it's not D or E. So 59. Which of the following is the best example of a negative externality? We need the one to where you have extra cost of doing something. So an increase in the price of oil due to the imposition of environmental regulations. So that's specifically is not the negative externality because all we're talking about is the increase in price. That itself is not that is how we could reduce the negative externality, but that is not the negative externality. An increase in the price of oil due to action, again, right? That's not the negative externality. That's just an increase in price. A decline in oil stock prices as a result of bad management. Well, no negative externality. There's no extra cost to society there. In fact, if you have a decline in the oil stock prices, some people could benefit from this. So, not a negative externality. However, if you had oil leakages, right? So you are having to pay or you're having to lose oil, and there's the extra cost to the environment. So that is the negative externality. And finally, 60, private supply of public goods is most likely to result in blank. So private supply of public goods, basically, instead of the government doing parts, we have firms doing parts. All right, and so what that means is we have the supply and demand, and that means we are here. Okay, so they are going to be doing this, but because it's a public good, right, we're going to be having some more benefits to this, right? Because there's going to be some people that don't pay for it and they still benefit. So we have some extra benefits here, the marginal external benefits of the public good. So this is your social and this is your market. So as you can see, the private supply will do less than the efficient level of output. And the reason is because of the free rider problem. The free rider problem, remember, is somebody doesn't pay for it, but they can still consume it. So 60 will be A because you will have more benefit for the public good because you will have more people using the public goods, so you will have more benefit than what the market will provide. So the private supply, what the firms will be doing, will have less than the efficient level of output, and it's because of the free rider problem. Okay, so that was 51 to 60. I hope you enjoy these videos. So I will keep going on to the next one. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.